Welcome to the Art Project. If you are new here, please subscribe. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to hit the like button before you leave. Add this to one of your playlists if you want to. And stick around to the very end for another fortune cookie. So in this particular video, I decided to spend some time with my daughters, and we did some watercoloring. And so I probably should have got them on video, but I didn't. But I got some paper out and try to spend some time watercoloring. A lot of watercolorists will tape their paper down to a surface first, and usually I do too. But we were in the dining room, and I didn't want to tape it to the dining room table, and I was too lazy at the time to go out and get the proper materials, so I made do with what I had. I did, however, get some good watercolors and some good watercolor brushes. And I started to draw this Blowpop from memory. And I've drawn suckers before and painted them in different paintings that I've done. And it's a theme that I keep coming back to, or a subject matter that I keep coming back to. But then I decided, hey, how about I get the real thing to look at and go down, especially when I started doing the wrapper. The wrapper was kind of hard to do from memory. I'd never done that before. So I decided to go down to the Dollar General and pick up a Blowpop. So I took my girls and we went and bought some candy. Of course, they were all about doing that. I brought it back, and as you can see, I stuck it in a little can of Play-Doh to prop it up so I could look at it and draw from actual observation. Then I realized that the band around the Blowpop is a lot thicker than around traditional suckers. And so also, when I started painting it in, I wanted it to be glossy. So I dipped it in the water and stirred around a little bit, and that gave me a little bit more gloss than I had to begin with. And you probably can't see it in the video, but the highlights on this Blowpop were from a set of lights that I have hanging above my dining room table, which I believe is like 5 or 6 lights. And so when I colored it in, I wanted to leave the highlights, and so I wet the paper down all around the highlights and left some dry paper for the highlights, and that way when I put the red in there, it would just spread and not actually get into my highlighted areas. And then as far as watercoloring goes, I like to work in layers, and I'm usually pretty cautious at the beginning, and I don't like to do too much too fast. You can always add more, but of course it's difficult to lift it off. And you can lift watercolor off a little bit, kind of erase it a little bit, but it's I think better to put it where you want it and put what you want down rather than having to lift it off or erase it. So I was pretty slow about building up the red and building up the different colors. And I started and stayed with, but since it was a cherry Blowpop, I stayed with red for the most part. And then the more I looked at it, the more I realized that the shadows just were a lot darker than I could actually get with the red. So I started to add some blue into it. And of course the blue turns it a little bit violet, I think. And but it also darkens it up, and it makes for a really beautiful, interesting color. Now, as I've told y'all before, I am colorblind. And so what you see in front of you, I don't know, maybe you would have chosen something completely different. Let me know in the comments down below if you think I went about this all wrong. So as a colorblind artist, I just have to do what I have learned about color theory and the way I see it, and I just kind of do the best I can to apply it that way. Every now and then I get my wife to give me some ideas and help me out. Now, in this particular case, I did not have any black, and I'm kind of glad that I didn't have any black because the Payne's Gray was so much better for the wrapper. Unfortunately, after doing all of this work on the wrapper, which I think actually turned out pretty well, I was left with that strip right between the sucker and the dark stripe that you see here at the top of the picture. I left that part. I was going to come back to it when it was dry and add that part in, but I did not. And then the next day I came to school, and this is where I started, and I actually had black to work with but did not have the Payne's gray, and you can see how that black stands out. It's not really black because I just used a little bit of it to kind of get the gray and blot it to get the gray. But you can see how the black that I'm using and the Payne's gray really just don't match. The Payne's gray is nice and cool. The black that I'm using at school is a lot warmer, and I really don't like the way they work together. I mean, they just don't match at all. So I had to go over all of the beautiful Payne's gray with the black in order to get a unified look in the wrapper. Now, if I could do things all over again, I think I'm going to use the Payne's gray, but not the black in the future. The Payne's gray is a whole lot better. And then I decided to do the background, and of course I wanted something that would complement the red and really bring it out. So I used a blue-green and a green to just kind of model the background. Again, I used like a really light wash or pretty light wash all around, and I really wanted it to be a lot darker to make the Blowpop stand out. But I wanted to start light because I can always get darker, but it's hard to get it lighter. And so I just slowly built it up. Have to let it dry a little bit, and then I'd come back with another layer. And then I'd let that dry a little bit, and then I'd come back with another layer. Now on this layer, I added the black. And again, I really don't like this black. I don't know, it's too warm. And I don't know, it's not as pretty as the Payne's gray. So I think in the future, I'm not going to use that black. But then I blot it. I love the texture that the paper towel left behind, but I also wanted the background to be a lot darker, so I kept having to go over the background multiple times to get it to the value that I wanted it to be. And of course, every time I went over it, I lost the beautiful little paper towel pattern. So it's something I'm going to work on in the future and try and figure out how to keep the paper towel pattern. If you got any suggestions for me, those of you out there that are better at watercolor than I am, which is pretty much everybody, give me some ideas, some advice down below. Let me know what you would do different. I take constructive criticism well, and I'm always looking for improvement, so please let me know down below. Anyway, that is it. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, and if you got any suggestions, leave them in the comments down below. Don't forget to subscribe. And here is another fortune cookie. By the way, when you open a fortune cookie, you should always tack the words "in art class" to the very end of your fortune. Thanks. Go make some art.